Have you ever looked at a huge dam and wondered if it's completely solid and leak-proof? Well, here's a surprising fact. All dams actually leak. Yep, you heard that right. Every dam, no matter what it is made of or how strong and well built it is, has some amount of water that leaks through. In this video, we're going to take a look at the fascinating world of dam seepage. We'll explore what it is, why it happens, and how civil engineers work hard to manage and control it. Plus, we'll look at some major dam failures that were caused by seepage. First, let's understand what seepage means. Seepage is when water slowly moves through small spaces in materials. For dams, seepage happens when the water being held back moves through the dam or the ground beneath it. The pressure from the water is what pushes it through. Even the smallest gaps between the concrete, rock, or soil materials that a dam is made of gives water a pathway. So, in a way, the water is leaking through the dam. Now, this might sound alarming, but it's actually a natural process. And usually, a dam can still be safe even with this seepage. When engineers design and build a dam, they actually expect some amount of water to seep through. But too much seepage can be dangerous, because if too much water leaks through, the dam can get weaker and even cause it to fail. And as you can imagine, when a dam fails, it can be a huge disaster. We'll even talk about some of these dam failures later on in this video. So that's why engineers make sure they design dams so that they can control the amount of seepage and be able to manage it. So, how exactly do engineers control seepage? They do this by first carefully designing the dams, and then making sure they are always watching and monitoring the seepage. One of the things engineers do during the design of a dam is something called a seepage analysis. A seepage analysis means carefully looking at how a dam will react once a ton of water is pushing up against it. So, engineers study the ground where the dam will be built and the materials they are going to use to build it. They use computer models to predict how water will move through the dam and the ground beneath and around it. This helps them understand where seepage might occur and how much water might leak through the dam. Another thing that engineers do during design is a slope stability analysis. This means they study the slopes of the dam to make sure they are stable and won't collapse from the seepage or other factors. They look at things like the angle of the slopes, the type of soil they will use to build it, and the amount of water pressure. If the analysis shows the design doesn't meet current standards, engineers need to change the design of the dam. They can either find a different location to build the dam or use different materials. This helps them make sure they create a design that is stable and safe. Engineers also include things called internal drains when they design dams made out of soil and rock. And by the way, these types of dams are called earthen embankments. So, these internal drains are basically just layers of gravel and sand that they place inside the dam. These drains help to collect the seepage water once it enters the dam and carry it away safely. Think of these drains as the dam's built-in plumbing system. They guide the seepage water out so it doesn't build up inside and cause problems. Cutoff walls are another thing that engineers will sometimes install before a dam is built. A cutoff wall is basically a concrete barrier that gets constructed deep into the ground beneath a dam. The purpose of these cutoff walls is to block water from seeping under the dam and through the dirt below it. It's like putting a giant plug in the ground to stop water from moving beneath the dam. The last common thing engineers do to prevent seepage from being a problem is something called grouting. This usually involves injecting a mixture of cement and water into the ground to fill in gaps and cracks. They do this by drilling small holes, maybe 2 inches in diameter, deep into the ground to open it up. This gives a pathway for the grout to enter the ground below. This helps to make the ground under a dam more solid and less likely to let water through. So, now that we have talked about all the things engineers do to prevent a lot of seepage, let's talk about how they monitor the seepage that does still get through. This monitoring process is actually an extremely important part of keeping a dam safe. Engineers use different tools and methods to keep an eye on how much water is seeping through the dam. One type of tool is a special device called a piezometer. Piezometers are basically long tubes that are put inside and around a dam to measure water pressure. The water pressure helps understand how much water is seeping through and where it's going. Engineers need to check these devices regularly so that they can watch out for any unusual changes or sudden big increases. If they see something like that happen, then that might mean there is a problem with the dam. Another type of tool that can be used is something called an observation well. These are small wells that are drilled into the ground around a dam. They allow engineers to measure the water level down below and see how it changes over time. If the water level in these wells rises too quickly, it could be a sign that seepage is increasing. Then, an investigation can be done to look into why this is happening. Seepage weirs are another thing that can be used to monitor seepage. These weirs are basically just small barriers or walls that are built on the other side of a dam from the water. If there are internal drains in the dam, they help to guide the water towards these weirs. The seepage water collects in front of the weir and then flows over. This helps engineers measure and understand how much water is leaking through the dam. If the flows suddenly increase, this can mean there's a problem. Now, having talked about all this, there have still been times where dams failed because of seepage. And as promised, let's look at a couple of big ones. One famous dam failure was the Teton Dam in 1976, which is in Idaho. This was a massive earthen embankment that failed just as it was being put into use for the first time. Engineers later found out that the soil under the dam had lots of holes and gaps, so a lot of seepage was flowing under the dam. This caused something called internal erosion. This means the seepage water made tunnels inside the dam, causing it to collapse. The failure resulted in a huge disaster, which caused a massive flood, lots of damage, and even worse, loss of life. Another dam failure was the Lake Dunlap Dam in 2019 in Texas. Actually, what happened was one of the spillway gates completely collapsed. This made the water level in the lake drop a ton, and super fast. Of course, after the failure, an investigation was done to figure out the cause. They found that the ground beneath the gates had a ton of seepage, which made it weak and then made it collapse. The moment that this failure happened was actually captured on video, which went completely viral. The video shows just how powerful and dangerous water can be if it suddenly gets released without warning. Now, with each dam failure comes new lessons that we learn about how to keep our old dams safe. Engineers are always coming up with better tools and technology to help them manage and monitor seepage in real time. Special sensors can constantly measure things like water pressure, temperature, and movement inside the dam. If something goes wrong, the sensors can send alerts, allowing engineers to act quickly. They also make sure to check in on the dams all the time and inspect them for changes or other issues. Drones and remote-controlled robots can also be used for the inspections. These devices can go where it's dangerous or hard for people and bring back super clear pictures and data. This helps engineers find things like cracks and other problems early so that they can fix them before they become serious. They also do regular maintenance on the internal drains and add more grouting to keep the dam safe. So, now that you have learned all of this, the next time you see a dam, you can think about how even though it might look very solid, water is always trying to leak through. But luckily, we have found ways to manage and control the seepage to keep a dam safe and working properly. Also, standards are always being updated so that new dams can be designed as safe as possible. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed learning about how all dams actually leak and how important it is to constantly check in on them. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out our other video about the huge disaster in Libya when the Derna dams failed in 2023. And of course, remember to subscribe to our channel because engineering is for everyone.